Have you ever walked into a room, and before you could even sit down, everything felt different? No one turned to look, no one greeted you, no one even said your name, but still, something shifted. The room got quieter, the air got heavier. People adjusted their posture without realizing. Some looked uncomfortable, others just stared. That wasn't in your head, that wasn't your imagination. That was your aura. It arrived before your footsteps did. It spoke before your lips moved. It sent a silent, undeniable message. I'm not here to blend in. I'm here to be seen, to be felt. Carl Jung once said, "The psyche transcends the body," meaning you're not just skin and bone. You are vibration. You are presence. You are energy. And when that energy is pure, powerful, and aligned, you don't just enter a space. You interrupt it. You stir it. You awaken it. You become the type of person who silently exposes the fake ones and inspires the real ones to rise. This isn't about being loud. This isn't about being aggressive. This is about being so real that everything unreal crumbles around you. And in this video, we're going to uncover 13 signs that prove your energy isn't ordinary. It's electric, it's disruptive, it's divine. So if you've ever felt out of place, like people react to you without even knowing why, this message is for you because maybe, just maybe, you weren't born to fit into rooms. You were born to transform them. Let's begin. Chapter 1. Your presence is loud, even in silence. Have you ever walked into a room and felt like the air shifted? No one said a word, no introductions were made, yet all eyes subtly turned toward you. Not because of your clothes, not because of your status, but because of something deeper, something unspoken. That is presence. You don't need to speak. You don't need to explain yourself, because when your energy is aligned, your silence is louder than noise. People feel you before they hear you. They sense something different, something real. And that's the kind of presence that doesn't need approval to exist. They may not even know your name. They'll remember the way your presence made them feel. Powerful, calm, curious, maybe even threatened. Because when you walk in as your authentic self, you disrupt the norm, and people don't forget the ones who make them feel something. Why does that happen? Because your psyche enters the space long before your body does. Your aura walks in with authority, and it doesn't ask for permission. It whispers something bold. I'm not here to perform, I'm here to be real. And that kind of truth, it's magnetic, it's rare. And in a world full of masks and roles, it's unforgettable. Remember this, presence is not about being loud, it's about being aligned. It's about mastering your energy so deeply that your silence becomes a mirror, reflecting back truth, confidence, and authenticity. That's power, and that is what makes you unshakable. Chapter 2. You trigger shadows in others. Ever wonder why some people admire you, while others seem uncomfortable around you, even without a word exchanged? Why do some people lean in with curiosity, while others pull back with judgment or even subtle hostility? Here's the truth, and it might shock you. You're not doing anything wrong. You're simply being real. And in today's world, authenticity is a revolution. See, when you walk into a room with clarity in your eyes and truth in your spirit, you don't have to say a word to make an impact. Your presence alone becomes a mirror that reflects what others have been avoiding within themselves. And for many, that's terrifying, because your honesty, it's disarming, your confidence unsettling, your raw, unapologetic energy, it threatens the masks they've carefully worn for years. They see in you what they once silenced in themselves. They feel in your presence what they've been trying to hide from their own shadow. And the moment your light touches it, the discomfort begins. You don't go out trying to trigger anyone. You don't seek confrontation. But your energy is too honest, too awake, too pure. And in a world addicted to filters and facades, that honesty becomes a silent threat. Each of us carries a shadow, Carl Jung once said. It's the part of ourselves we reject, suppress, and bury deep. But here's the twist. You are the kind of person who unknowingly brings that shadow into the light, not by force, not by judgment, but simply by existing as your full, unapologetic self. You speak with conviction, not because you're trying to be better than others, but because you've worked hard to heal yourself. You walk with purpose, not to intimidate, but because you found meaning in your steps. And when people who haven't done that inner work come near you, they feel the contrast, they sense the emotional gap, and suddenly their insecurities have nowhere to hide. That's when the projections start. They'll say you're too intense, too much, too confident, too direct. But what they're really saying is, I'm not ready to face my own shadow. And you make it impossible to ignore. But don't shrink yourself. Don't dim your light. You're not responsible for other people's discomfort. You didn't choose to trigger their wounds. You just chose to heal your own. And your healing naturally highlights the places where others are still broken. That's not your burden to carry. That's their invitation to grow. So let them stare, let them whisper, let them misunderstand. You were not born to be palatable. You were born to be powerful. And in this lifetime, your job is not to protect people from their own shadows. It's to keep shining, so they finally realize it's safe to look within. Your presence is a wake-up call, and only the awake will understand your language. Chapter 3. Animals, children, and nature gravitate toward you. Have you ever noticed how the world responds to you when no one is watching? A stray cat curls up near your feet. A child you've never met smiles at you with ease. Even the wind feels gentler when you're walking alone. It's not a coincidence, it's energy. And unlike humans who judge by appearances, achievements, or status, animals, children, and nature don't fall for illusions. They don't read your words. They read your vibration. They feel whether your energy is pure or polluted. They sense whether your presence is safe or chaotic. And when your aura is real, grounded and calm, they respond with trust, peace, and connection. Animals don't need explanations. They know when someone's heart is kind. Kids don't need credentials. They know when someone's presence feels warm. Nature doesn't need performance. It simply aligns with those who carry stillness in their soul, and that's you, because your aura isn't loud. It doesn't scream for attention. It doesn't fake happiness or pretend to be perfect. It simply exists in truth, and truth in its quietest form becomes the most powerful language on earth. You see, the modern world is full of noise, fake smiles, forced laughter, constant performance. But when you walk in with calm, real energy, you become a sanctuary in a world that's starving for peace. That's why animals stay close. That's why children feel safe. That's why trees seem to whisper softer when you're around, because you're not trying to control, impress, or dominate. You're simply being, and in your being, there is harmony in a world full of overstimulation. You are stillness in a society addicted to pretending. You are authenticity in an energy field crowded with chaos. You are alignment, and the natural world responds to that. It bows to that because truth doesn't need to be shouted. It needs only to be felt. So never underestimate the silent validation of life around you. Sometimes, the way a dog relaxes in your presence or a child reaches out for your hand says more about your soul than any applause from the crowd ever could. You are connected, you are grounded, you are real, and the world, especially, the purest parts of it, feels it. Chapter 4. You intimidate without trying. You don't walk into a room to prove anything. You're not loud. You're not seeking validation. You carry yourself with calm eyes, steady breath, and unshakable presence. But suddenly, the atmosphere shifts. People straighten up. They laugh a little too hard. They talk a little too much. And deep down, they become uneasy even though you haven't said a single word. Why does that happen? Because in a world trained to respect noise, your silence becomes a power move. In a culture obsessed with appearances, your authenticity becomes a threat. You're not trying to be intimidating. You don't puff your chest or fake bravado, but you don't hide either. and that alone shakes people to their core. See, when someone hasn't made peace with who they are, your presence exposes them, not by force, not by judgment, but by simply being real in a space full of masks. That's why they put up walls. That's why their laughter feels off, because deep down, they know you see through it. Your stillness says, "I've done the work." Your energy whispers, "I know who I am." And for those who haven't even started their healing journey, that kind of presence feels like pressure. It feels like exposure. It feels like a quiet storm walking through their performance. And so they fidget. They force smiles. They fill silence with noise because silence exposes them. But don't shrink yourself. Don't dim your light. You're not responsible for other people's discomfort. You didn't choose to trigger their wounds. You just chose to heal your own. And your healing naturally highlights the places where others are still broken. That's not your burden to carry. That's their invitation to grow. So let them stare, let them whisper, let them misunderstand. You were not born to be palatable. You were born to be powerful. And in this lifetime, your job is not to protect people from their own shadows. It's to keep shining, so they finally realize it's safe to look within. Your presence is a wake-up call, and only the awake will understand your language. Chapter 5. You shift the whole room's energy. You don't even realize it most of the time. You're just being you, calm, grounded, present. But something subtle, undeniable, happens the moment you enter the room. The air feels different. Conversations shift. Postures change. The energy adjusts without a single word from your mouth, and you're left wondering why people suddenly grow quiet, look at you longer, or even fumble over their words. Here's the truth. You didn't walk in. Your frequency did. This isn't power through dominance. This isn't charisma through forced charm. This is vibrational presence. It's not about what you do. It's about what you are. A walking field of truth, a moving reflection of alignment. You don't need a spotlight. You don't need validation, because your aura speaks before you ever open your mouth, and the world listens. Even if it doesn't understand why, you carry something ancient, something timeless. Your energy holds symbols, archetypes, codes, echoes from lineages, long forgotten, and people can't explain it. But they feel it deep in their bones. It stirs something in them, something ancestral, something spiritual, as if a long-lost memory of power, purpose, or pain just got awakened, and they don't even know what hit them. You walk in like a breeze, but shift the space like a storm. Not loud, not aggressive, but undeniable. That's not magic. It's alignment. When your soul is rooted in truth, your presence naturally rearranges anything that isn't. People feel seen in ways they weren't ready for. They feel safe or exposed, drawn in or shaken to their core. You're not just a person. You're a mirror, a portal, a reminder, and the energy doesn't lie. It responds to who you are every single time. So if you've ever felt people treating you differently, watching you reacting strangely to your presence, understand this: you didn't disturb the room. You simply revealed what was already there. You shift frequencies. You awaken truths. You bring the unseen to the surface. And that is not something you do. It's something you are. Chapter 6. You read people without words. You walk into a room and instantly something hits you. You can't explain it. No one said anything. Everyone's smiling. Everything looks normal. But deep inside, you know something's off. There's tension in the air, fake harmony behind the laughter. Someone's energy just doesn't match their words. And no, you're not paranoid. You're not being dramatic. You're not overthinking. You're just deeply aware. You don't wait for people to explain themselves, because you've already felt what they're too afraid to say. That uneasiness in someone's posture, that flash of insecurity behind their compliment, that sudden shift in tone, you pick it all up without trying. Carl Jung called it symbolic perception, a kind of deep intuitive intelligence that reads energy before it reads speech. It's like you're speaking an invisible language, one made of body cues, micro-expressions, emotional frequencies, And once you've tuned into that language, you can't unhear it. It's not a superpower. It's not some mystical gift. It's the natural result of doing your own inner work. When your aura is clear, your perception sharpens. You start sensing people's emotional weather, not from what they say, but from what their soul leaks. You feel the grief behind the grin. You notice the envy behind the praise. You sense the storm behind the "I'm fine." And this awareness bit makes you different, sometimes even isolated, because you can't play along with surface-level small talk anymore. You crave depth, you crave truth, and shallow masks make your spirit itch. People may call you intense or too much, but really you're just honest energetically. And that's rare in a world where everyone's trying to say the right thing. You're the one who feels the real thing. So trust that awareness, honor that intuition. Because while others are busy listening to voices, you're tuned into the frequency beneath them. And in that space, you don't just read people, you understand them, often better than they understand themselves. Chapter 7. Small talk drains you. You smile politely, you nod at the right times, you even throw in a "yeah, crazy weather today." But deep inside you're exhausted, not because you're shy, not because you're antisocial, but because every meaningless word chips away at your soul, talking about office drama, celebrity gossip, pretending to care about what someone's cat did this morning. It physically drains you because your spirit wasn't designed for empty conversations. Your energy field craves substance. You don't want to talk about people. You want to talk with people about their dreams, their wounds, their purpose, their fears. You want to know what keeps them up at night, what sets their soul on fire, what parts of themselves they've been hiding from the world. You want real? You need real, because your presence calls for presence. And in a world full of autopilot interactions, you were born to feel, to connect, to awaken. That's why small talk feels like static in your frequency. It's not just boring, it's suffocating. You start feeling physically distant, emotionally numb, because your system registers it as noise. And you were built to tune into signal. You don't want conversations that skim the surface. You want ones that dive deep into the heart, into the pain, into the truth, because that's where your energy flows effortlessly. That's where your aura expands, not contracts. And sure, this makes you different. Not everyone gets it. Some people may call you intense, too serious, or hard to talk to, but the ones who are truly awake, they feel the magic in your depth. They feel the pull towards something real. When you find those souls who speak the same unspoken language, the conversation, it feels like home. So no, you're not antisocial. You're just allergic to the fake. You weren't made to blend in with the noise. You were made to echo truth in a world starving for meaning. Chapter 8. People project their darkness onto you. Your light isn't loud. You don't walk around trying to prove anything. But when you enter a room, something shifts. Not just the atmosphere, but people. Their tone, their energy, their behavior. It changes, sometimes instantly, and you're left wondering, what did I do wrong? Here's the truth, nothing. You didn't hurt them. You didn't disrespect them. But your presence disrupted something they were trying to keep hidden. Because when your light shines with clarity, it disturbs the darkness they've been trying to ignore. Not everyone is ready to see their wounds. Not everyone wants to face their own lies. And you become the mirror that makes those shadows impossible to escape. So what do? Some will project sudden hate, subtle jealousy, cold silence. They'll twist your words, doubt your intentions, mock your spirit, not because of who you truly are, but because of what you unconsciously represent. You're a walking truth bomb. You challenge the performance, you interrupt the illusion, you carry energy that can't be manipulated, and that scares people. You don't play games, you don't wear masks, you don't pretend, and that makes those who do deeply uncomfortable. They look at you and feel exposed, because in your eyes, they see everything they've buried. In your presence, they feel everything they've suppressed. You trigger their inner storm without lifting a finger, and so they pull away. Or worse, they come close, wearing admiration like a costume, only to flip it into resentment when they realize you won't shrink for them, but don't let it change you. Don't start questioning your worth because someone else couldn't face theirs. You are not responsible for their projection. You are only responsible for staying aligned with your truth. Remember, the brighter the flame, the sharper the shadows it casts. And you, my friend, you were never meant to dim, just to make others feel safe in their darkness. You're here to wake them up, and sometimes them. That means they'll run from you before they rise. Let them. You're not here to be liked by everyone. You're here to be found by the real ones. Chapter 9. Your silence is more powerful than any noise. You don't feel the need to raise your voice, interrupt, or dominate the conversation. That's because you've learned something most people never grasp. Real power isn't loud, it's in the stillness. Your silence, it doesn't just mean you're not talking, it roars. You don't have to fight to be heard because your very presence commands attention. You don't beg for understanding because you've already found peace and acceptance within yourself. And while the world is scrambling for likes, followers, validation, and applause, you simply exist, grounded, present, and completely unshaken. That quietness in you, it communicates volumes, far more than 1,000 shouted words ever could. It says, I'm not here to perform. I don't need to prove anything about my worth. I'm simply observing. I'm truly listening. And I see everything. And that level of unfiltered perception often unnerves people, because most people talk nonstop precisely to avoid being seen or heard in their vulnerability. They raise their voices when they feel insecure. They fill every silence with noise, because stillness would expose them. But you've made peace with silence. You are the stillness you embody. Your silence isn't passive or weak. It's active. It's potent. It confronts. It challenges. It reveals. It forces people to look inward and deal with themselves. They might misunderstand your quietness, mistaking it for arrogance, aloofness, or indifference. But the truth is, you're just operating on a different frequency, a deeper one that doesn't need noise to be powerful. Your energy has already spoken. Your presence has already registered. You've already shifted the dynamics of the space. You don't need to shout over others, because while they're competing to be the loudest voice, you've already become the deepest presence in the room. So embrace your quiet strength, not from a place of fear, but from a place of true mastery. Because when your silence is rooted in truth, even the loudest, most chaotic crowds eventually fall quiet around you. Chapter 10. You instantly attract what's real and repel what's fake. When it comes to you, things tend to be clear-cut. There's no fuzzy middle ground. People either feel drawn to you or they want to get away, immediately. They either feel pulled in by your energy, like a magnet, or they instinctively avoid you, almost like seeing their own reflection in a mirror they've spent years trying to ignore. And the most amazing thing about it, you're not even trying to make this happen. You're not putting on an act. You're not trying to be popular or beg for acceptance. You're not changing who you are to fit in. You simply exist as your raw, authentic, completely unfiltered self. And just by doing that, your energy becomes a natural sorting mechanism. Some people will connect with you and feel truly seen, not for the masks they wear, but for the genuine person underneath. They'll feel safe, accepted, maybe understood for the very first time. Because your presence doesn't judge, it simply opens up a space for authenticity. It silently says, come as you are. You don't have to be who you think you should be. But then there are others. They'll feel exposed, uncomfortable, even threatened, because the honest way you see them is the very version of themselves they've spent a lifetime trying to hide, even from themselves. You don't speak the language of pretense or fakery. So when people approach you wearing their masks, putting on a performance, or trying to manipulate situations, your energy quietly registers that mismatch. It doesn't need to yell or push back. It just doesn't align. And authentic energy never lies. While they might not understand why exactly they feel uneasy around you, their soul recognizes that you're not the kind of person who tolerates what's fake. You naturally repel what's not genuine, and you attract what's real. Your energy basically puts up a sign that says, "Authentic souls only, please." It's not about being superior or intentionally exclusive. It's about protecting your own peace and integrity. Something you've likely worked hard to achieve. Your inner space simply no longer has room for anything that threatens that peace. This unique ability is your gift. Think of it as your built-in compass, or an invisible shield. It protects you from insincere connections and saves you from wasting your time on superficial interactions. It effortlessly brings the genuine souls into your orbit, those rare individuals who can truly meet you at your level of depth. And just as effectively, it filters out the noise and pretense that never deserved a place in your world anyway. So if people walk out of your life without a clear explanation, let them go. It wasn't personal rejection, it was just your genuine energy doing its job of alignment. You're not here to be liked by everyone. You're here to be found by the people who resonate with your truth. Chapter 11. You carry a warrior's calm. You don't need to brag, you don't need to flex. There's no need for loud declarations or inflated ego, because the way you sit in silence speaks louder than most people shouting ever could. Your calm isn't passive. It's not the calm of someone who's never struggled. It's the calm of someone who's been through hell and didn't just survive, but evolved. You've faced storms that could have broken you. You've walked through nights so dark, your own breath felt like thunder. You sat alone with your shadows, not to run, not to fight, but to understand. That's why your energy feels so grounded. Why your presence settles the room or shakes it. Depending on who's watching, you don't need to prove you're strong. You are strong because you've met the deepest parts of yourself and didn't flinch. You've learned the art of inner warfare. You've died and been reborn mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and now your peace is power. People feel that. Some respect it. They see the quiet depth in your eyes and think this person has been through something. They feel safe near you. They listen more closely when you speak because your words carry weight. Others, they fear it because they've only known power that screams, not power that breathes. They don't understand how someone so still could be so strong, how someone so gentle could be so unfuckwithable. But no one forgets it. Because a warrior's calm is not common, it's earned, and it radiates in ways the world cannot fake. So don't ever mistake your softness for weakness. Your restraint is strength. Your stillness is strategy. Your peace is the product of every battle you've ever faced, and won without anyone even knowing. You don't need a sword. You are the weapon, sharpened by pain, polished by wisdom, powered by truth and your calm. It's not the absence of war, it's the presence of someone who knows exactly who they are and no longer needs to fight to prove it. Chapter 12. You heal without trying. You don't have to say the perfect thing. You don't need a title, a label, or a therapist's license, because when people are around you, they feel lighter, more calm, more seen, more themselves. And the wild part, you're not even trying. Your energy does the work. It creates a space that says, you don't have to pretend here, you can exhale, now you're safe. You see, most people are walking around with invisible wounds, hearts full of unsaid things, smiles covering battles. They're afraid to lose, but when they step into your presence, something in them unclenches. The masks start to crack, the walls start to lower, and for the first time in a long time, they feel like they can just be. That's your medicine. It's not in what you say, it's in what you carry. A stillness, a depth, a frequency of truth that reaches people where words never could. But here's what makes it even more powerful. Your energy doesn't just soothe, it awakens. You make people feel safe, yes, but you also make them feel seen. And when someone is truly seen, their illusions start to fall apart. Their lies can't breathe anymore. Their unhealed stories begin to shake, and that can be terrifying for them, because while you heal without effort, you also challenge without intent, you trigger reflection, you pull truth to the surface, you inspire people to drop the act even when they're not quite ready to face what's underneath. Some will thank you for it, others will pull away. But no one leaves unchanged because healing doesn't always feel soft. Sometimes it feels like being cracked open, and your presence has a way of doing that gently but deeply. So don't underestimate your gift. You weren't born to fix people. You were born to remind them of their power. And simply by being who you are, you make people remember who they really are too. That is the rarest healing of all. Chapter 13. You were born to disturb what's fake. You've probably felt it your whole life. That strange tension in rooms where everyone's pretending, the fake smiles, the forced conversations, the shallow dynamics, and deep inside, you knew you didn't belong there. Not because you're flawed, not because you're broken, but because you were never meant to blend in. You were born to stand out by standing in your truth. You weren't made to be polite in the face of lies. You weren't designed to shrink yourself to keep others comfortable. You came here to wake people up, to shake systems built on illusion, to call the soul back home, even if that means becoming the storm they never saw coming. Your aura, it doesn't just glow, it disrupts. It enters quietly, but it rearranges the entire frequency of a space. Not because you're trying to be dramatic, but because your truth exposes what's fake simply by existing. That's why some people love you instantly and others can't stand you without knowing why. Because your energy threatens anything built on performance. Your presence stirs what's been asleep. You don't let lies breathe easy. You don't let masks sit comfortably. You don't even have to call them out, you just are. And that's enough to make the fake feel seen, exposed, unstable, because you represent something rare, something wild, something real, and real is dangerous. Dangerous to comfort zones, dangerous to conformity, dangerous to anyone who's hiding from their own reflection. You weren't born to be neutral. You were born to be transformational. And transformation doesn't happen through silence and small talk. It happens through disruption, through energy that refuses to play dead. So don't dull your edge, don't soften your fire. You are here to disturb the fake, not to make peace with it. Because every time your aura collides with illusion, truth wins, and the world needs more of that, more of you. If this message hit something deep inside you, know this wasn't just content. It was a mirror, and you were meant to see it. You've always felt different, too intense, too emotional, too real for this world of surface-level masks, but that's not a flaw, that's your purpose. You weren't born to blend in. You weren't designed to be background noise. You were born to radiate, to awaken, to stir, to shake what's asleep, and in doing so, make the whole world confront what it's been running from. So stop apologizing for your presence. Stop editing your truth to fit their comfort. Let them stare, let them whisper, let them misunderstand. That's not your burden, it's their awakening. But promise me one thing, never, ever dim your light just to protect someone else's shadow. Because your energy, it was never meant to be hidden. It was meant to be felt, loud, raw, and real. And if this truth stirred something inside you, if it reminded you of who you really are, like this video, share it with someone who's been doubting their own light. And subscribe, because your energy, it's not alone anymore. Welcome to the tribe. This is your space, your people, your truth, the end. But really, this is just the beginning. Let's rise together.